If you're anything like me, you like Pokemon cards. Not because you craft the perfect deck to play competitively, not because you just want the most expensive pieces of a collection, but because you like the pretty pictures. Recently, I've been perusing for new cards on JP Fans, a proxy shipping service that helps you buy from Japanese marketplaces like Mercari. If you're thinking of grabbing some new cards yourself, you can use the link and discount code in my bio and the pinned comment to get a discount. I've already got some cards on the way, but I was too excited and wanted to talk about some great cards as I await my new packs. While I do enjoy actually playing the Pokemon card TCG, the thing that has always held my attention with these cards was the artwork on display. I would get a single pack of 11 cards and spend the afternoon looking at the images representing any given Pokemon. The art so often adds to the world of Pokemon, fleshing out how these creatures exist in nature, displaying them in a wide range of situations. What could have easily been nothing but stock images instead breathed life into this wonderful world, and I want to take some time to simply appreciate some of this art. So join me as we take a gander at a small handful of my collection today. Illustrated by Sotaro, this Misdreavus is an excellent starting point today. This is such a dynamic art style for a Pokemon that is often boiled down to a pretty simple rendering. Sotaro has really brought to the forefront the idea that Misdreavus is a frightening Pokemon without losing its cute charm with the pouty tsundere face. The major benefit to drawing a Pokemon that's only a head is that it's really easy to get the whole thing into the composition, bolstering the layout with contrasting ghost energy and a blurry look at what seems to be the altar of the moon in the background. It makes it feel like Misdreavus is moments away from jumping right out of the card at you. Significantly less frightening, but nevertheless still charming, is this Jigglypuff illustrated by Yumi. Jigglypuff's another one that's pretty easy to render, being basically just a circle. Adding energy to the piece by having it skipping down a flowery path on a windy day was already a great idea, but Yumi took it all a step further by decorating Jigglypuff in a far too big flower crown. The wreath of unique flowers adds to Jigglypuff's bouncy energy, with everything implying it's tossing the crown up as they skip forward, so as to keep it from dragging on the ground. This was when the fairy type was still quite new to the card game, so leaning into this characterization for Jigglypuff to help differentiate the type from its previously normal one is nothing short of brilliant, all while making the cards super eye-catching too. Of course, we can't talk about eye-catching cards without bringing up some holographics, and this Tentacruel card, illustrated by Kagamaru Himeno, is one of my favorites. Himeno has already done a phenomenal job replicating the style of Pokemon, while also enhancing the Tentacruels by giving some extra attention to the various textures on display. Showing off the Pokemon swimming at sunset is also a gigabrain way to make sure the blue Mons don't get lost in the water around them. The thing I love so much with the hollow element is how it gives depth to that ocean. The way it and the sparkles around them shine in the light creates the illusion that the water is in motion, while also pushing the static Tentacruel to the foreground. There's an extra level of depth implied that really brings the whole scene to life, even without the Tentacruels engaging in as open of behavior as we saw with Jigglypuff. If we want to talk about behavior though, this Dedenne, illustrated by Tomokazu Komiya, has it in spades. I've never seen a Dedenne in this shape before. Leaning into the dormouse/hamster inspiration for the Pokemon to have it stuffing its cheeks is not only a fun way to show off what makes this Pokemon unique, but also is so dang cute. Like, oh my gosh. And that cuteness is cranked up to 11 with the way the card has been rendered. Leaning into a children's storybook aesthetic, Dedenne seems to be illustrated with gouache paints and pastels. Even if actually done digitally, the effect is, well, super effective, giving the whole image a distinct texturing and making what is ultimately a simple concept elevated into greatness. Let's stay focused on technique for a second, because we have a similar usage of it with Hisuian Arcanine, illustrated by C.A. Nanahara. Arcanine looks quite ferocious as it poses against the cloudy sky, but the thing that makes this card really noteworthy in my eyes is how Nanahara has subtly emulated the painted line work of sumie painting, a traditional painting technique that suits itself well to the historical Hisuian Pokemon setting. While significantly more colorful than the classic sumie paintings would be, this thick yet varied line work evokes the feeling of the art form, if not literally the technique of it, making this a great example of using the setting to influence how one approaches a piece. We all, of course, like the Pokemon, but there's art to be found in the trainer cards as well. For example, the Field Worker is a great peek at the daily life of the world of Pokemon outside the gym circuit. Illustrated by Ken Sugimori himself, we get a wordless narrative as we see the titular Field Worker look around in confusion as a just out-of-sight Mew watches on. This all implies that Mew had been playing around with the Field Worker, perhaps knocking the berries in her hand off of its branches, and we get the moment just before Mew flies off elsewhere, as the ranger is left wondering what caused the berries to fall. Not to mention how lovely this lighting in the forest is. This might be my favorite Ken Sugimori piece. Truly a master in his craft flexing here. Another trainer I always liked was Switch. Illustrated by Keiji Kinabuchi, it's hard to explain what tickles me so much about this one. I think it's the clunky, old-school video gaminess of it. Even back in 1999 when this card first released, it felt retro. The too shiny texturing on the Pokeballs and Magnemite, the fascinating lack of any texture on Kakuna, the nebulous void of cyberspace the Pokemon find themselves in as they switch places. Even the composition is weirdly bottom-heavy, as Kakuna is so small it doesn't balance out all that Magnemite on the left. There's something so viscerally of its time with art like this that brings me right back to the playground. Now this is where I would put a fancy full art trainer card, if I had one! Yes, full arts are truly the cream of the crop, allowing for a larger image to admire, and to have one of your favorite characters is truly something worth collecting for. But while I may not have a full art of a trainer to show off, I can instead share the aura-forming king, Alakazam. Illustrated by Mitsurio Arita, the power of this Alakazam EX simply cannot be ignored. I especially like how well Arita's handled the foreshortening here. We've seen Alakazam standing around with its spoons a lot over the years. Simply having the Pokemon visibly exerting some energy to use its psychic power does so much to sell the power on display, as does the fact the Pokemon break out of the boundary of the border. Playing with the frame is a great way to show off how cool and epic a Pokemon is supposed to be. It's impressive how the holographic element isn't the main thing displaying the Pokemon's power level here. Now, an example where the holo does increase the card art's power level would be Charizard, illustrated by Tokiya. The lined effect of the holographic background gives the impression that Charizard is going Mach 10. The speed is undeniable, and if I'm being honest, helps flesh out the bottom half of a top-heavy composition. Not only is the rendering on Charizard incredibly metal, with harsh lights and shadows really selling the volcano behind it, but I've never seen such a flexible Charizard before, twisted at an angle that sells not only how heavy the Pokemon is despite staying in flight, but also the power of the scorching fire it's charging up for. It doesn't look real, but it looks the way Charizard feels when you're playing the games as a kid. For something that does feel real, I offer you Tynamo, illustrated by Yuka Mori. I have always been such a sucker for these claymation-esque photographs for Pokemon cards. Even though it technically doesn't look realistic, there's something about seeing these lovingly crafted Pokemon in our real world that just brings them to life. Posing Tynamo above the water places it in our universe, letting us see what it may look like to actually stumble upon the Pokemon IRL. And the detailing here is nothing to scoff at. Getting the small, yellow line down Tynamo's side was probably a nightmare to get right, let alone the flat fin elements. Seeing so many different artists bring the Pokemon to life across so many art styles just warms my heart, you know? If you're looking to expand your own card collection, then I am delighted to share that I am an affiliate with JP Fans. They are a proxy service that makes it easier for those of us who do not live in Japan to order items from Japan. You've probably engaged with similar proxy services if you've ever ordered VTuber or K-pop merch before. I've been using proxy services for years to fill out my acrylic stand collection. Of the collection I've got, Tenkai is my favorite, but I do remember that when I ordered him, the website was like in all Japanese, so I had to copy and paste all the text to Google Translate so I could figure out what I was doing. JP Fans lets you shop through sites like Mercari, which is sort of like Amazon or eBay, which is great. You're able to find items at a stellar secondhand price like this. I got Law secondhand, and he's one of the best figures I own, and I was able to get him super cheap because of that. So, as long as you keep track of the condition listed on items, then you can get some Really great stuff. Ignore how dusty he is, though. Ignore that. Don't pay attention to the dust. Of course, just like eBay and Amazon, I implore you to look out for counterfeit items. You should always be sure of your purchase and spending your money wisely. Navigating JP Fans is also super easy. The homepage has some popular suggestions. Clicking on the search bar brings up your search history, alongside some trending topics for quick access. You can filter your search, change the site you're shopping from, and sort the items on display. Once you've decided on what you'd like, simply click on it, add to cart, and check out. Easy peasy. If you're looking to order something, you can use the link in my bio or the pinned comment below to sign up and use my discount code, TWINS20, to save 20% on your order. You save money, and by using my link, you also help support the channel. It's a win-win. This is a great way to find Japanese exclusive card art, and JP Fans offers 60 days of free storage alongside a shipping cost estimator. This allows you plenty of time to think over your order, or just to wait until your next paycheck comes in to finish checking out. Thank you so much to JP Fans for partnering with me. I'll actually be ordering some Pokemon cards through them myself, so look forward to some more card art discussions in the not too distant future. And thank you so much for watching! A handy dandy tip I've got is that there's a website that catalogs all the Pokemon card artists' work together. It's called The Art of Pokemon. So if you've got a favorite artist, scope out their portfolio there. You may find a new favorite card to look for. Thank you again, and I'll see you next time. Special shout out to my $10 patrons: Andrew, Genital War Thunder, Hut Mutt Butt, James Piper, Messiah Complex, and Ranger Sode. Thanks a million, you're all the best.